Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to my Live Letter 21 overview, and by God is there a lot to overview. So, this was the Live Letter 21, and it lasted over 3 hours long. They showed mostly game footage, they talked a lot about the new jobs and the new battle systems, and it's a lot of information to take in. Now, before we get started, normally I put some video over this of some of the things that were there. Unfortunately, the way that I obtain Twitch footage does not work if the video is over 3 hours long. So, unfortunately, and I wasn't taking screenshots all that time because, well, I was just expecting to be able to download the footage and put it over my video as I was doing the overview. So, apologies ahead of time for that, but there are plenty of links in the description of the video taking you to the live letter, screenshots, all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's start with the official digest, which is still being updated as we speak. And when I get to the end of it, if it hasn't been updated all the way, I will switch over to my notes, which are missing things like names of abilities. There may have been a few tough to interpret translations that I wasn't quite able to capture. So what do you say we just start with the official digest? That way there's no confusion about the information, and then we'll go over my personal notes. So, here we go, just a couple of posts from Bayonne letting us know it's going to get started. So, it started off with them showing off a new, trailer, sort of, for the game. It's actually a movie, like a music video for their song, Dragon Song, which is going to be the official theme of Heavensward. And it was really cool. It showed some of the new scenes from the game, some spoilerific scenes. Actually, my notes have some things with that. Like, it showed Alphino, Tataru, and the Warrior of Light walking through windy snows. Showed some scenes from 2.55. It shows the three entering Ishgard. It shows Lady Iceheart in front of a dragon statue talking to you. It shows the Warrior of Light meeting the Archbishop along with Sir Amaric. It showed Iceheart, the Warrior of Light, Alphino, and I wrote Estinian here, but I actually think that they had Derplander and the Warrior of Light separated here. Also, they were meeting with a dragon in the Sea of Clouds. It almost seemed like an emissary because Iceheart was talking to them, and then it flew away. They showed the new Garlean Emperor actually making an appearance in the new zones, meeting face to face with Alphino and the other two. They showed the Asians walking up to the adventure in one of the scenes, and they showed Heidelin's Crystal. So it's a really good music video. I'm sure that they'll upload it to YouTube probably sometime while I'm recording this, or you can find it on the past broadcast in the description of the video. So, they started off walking through Ishgard. They walked through the Gates of Judgment. They showed off the slums. They showed off the upper levels, all of which were beautiful in DirectX 11. They kind of explained some of the lore, why the buildings are broken down, especially in the slums, where the nobles live. Just a lot of different environmental things that you're really going to have to watch to capture it entirely. One thing they did confirm, though, is that there are guilds for each of the new jobs in Ishgard. So, in order to unlock the new jobs, it seems that will be where you have to go. Just find the guilds in Ishgard, and there you go. You'll be able, to unlock them right when you get in there. Next post from Bayonne here. They started showing off the Korthan Western Highlands. They only showed off like 2 areas and then plus a bunch of dungeons. So this is an area back from 1.0 for those of you who remember it. There's like 3 other areas still in Korthus that we haven't really gotten discovered. They showed off the first dungeon, which was Dusk Vigil. They showed us it from the outside, and they showed us a little bit from the inside later. And then they talked about the ability to unlock flying mounts. Now, you're going to get a flying mount very early in the story, but you won't actually be able to use it. It seems they're going to be using almost a Vista-esque feature in order to allow you to unlock flying in each zone. So while you're going through the main story, you'll find a few wind current points, and those will help you in unlocking the flying for that zone. But in order to unlock it, you need to find all the wind currents. And for some of those, you're just going to have to go around and explore. And then once you're able to fly, some more quests will be available to do, since you probably are going to need to fly for certain quests in that area. So expect to do a lot of exploring right when you get into the Heavensward areas in order to unlock the flying mounts. Don't worry. Not too hard to do. Just go through the main story until you can't go any further without flying, and then you should be able to unlock them. They also showed off, flying over some of these areas. Like, some areas are not on the map, but you're still able to fly over them. That's probably just to designate areas you can't actually land, but they didn't try to land on any of those darkened areas on the map, so it wasn't really able to tell. Moving forward, they went over to the Germanium Forelands. They actually showed off the Chocobo Forest, which has Chocobos out in the open world that are enemies that you can fight. So that's going to be interesting. I can't remember the last game where we fought Chocobos, that we, like, fought them, not like, I don't know, not like just captured them out in the wild and they just ran away. So it's actually pretty interesting. So not only are these areas much larger, but they're much more dangerous. Like this, when comparing one area, it's anywhere from 2 to 5 times larger, which is way larger than they said last time. Before they said 150% to 200% bigger than the previous zones. But the enemies here are actually a lot more dangerous. The open world was very, very docile when you were the Warrior of Light back in the A Realm Reborn series. Here, you're going to be at much more of a threat. They even said if you try to take on 2 enemies at the same level as you and you aren't adequately prepared, that you're very likely to die, which is going to make partying up for certain dangerous areas a much more meaningful thing to do. Still not mandatory, because obviously you can fly over a lot of the threats here if you're just trying to get from point A to B, but there is supposed to be things to do on the ground and tough enemies to fight on the ground. So, especially the Beastman camps, and there's other dangerous areas out there, so you'll want to group up in order to move safely through those areas. Unless, of course, you're a ninja. I'm sure they have True Sight or something. And then they went back to the Pillars of Ishgard, you know, the Ishgardian zones, and they just showed a few things. There's the Holy See. They showed some statues of the 12 founding knights of Ishgard. And then they showed off some of the graphics, and they even showed off a little bit of Ravana. They teleported into Ravana's level 54 main story quest. I'm assuming that was the actual level for when you fight Ravana in the main story. And there was a little charge bar in the top right, but it almost seemed like it was just another way of tracking Ravana's HP if you don't have him focus targeted. And they showed off a few Ravana tactics, like, you know, Ravana's got a giant cleave attack, also has a shield that they can put around themselves. So quite interesting to see what they are going to do with the Ravana fight. The music was also very, very good. Again, of course, as all Primal themes are. And that was pretty much how they spent the entire first half of the live letter. Now, moving on, they actually strictly spoke about new jobs. They even played a video, which again, I'm sure will either be on YouTube or Reddit or something like that while I'm recording this video, that showed off all of the new abilities, not all of them, but a chunk of new abilities for the new job. Similar to the old job action trailer back for 2.0, this was a new one with the 3 new jobs as well as all the old ones. But the Black Mage, they went really in depth with the new abilities. They even showed Yoshi P live demonstrating how it's going to interact with the other Black Mage abilities. So, they showed off 3 new abilities: Ley Lines, Sharpcast, and Enochian. So, Ley Lines was the first one they showed off. This actually places a seal around you, and while you're in that seal, you get a spell speed buff. So, something that, of course, Black Mages love. Now, if you leave that field, not only do you lose the spell speed buff, but the field itself even disappears. So it's really something that you want to make sure I'm going to be standing still or not have to move very much at all for quite a period of time. That way I don't lose this 30-second spell speed buff that I'm standing in here with. Sharpcast is a new, you know, Surecast, Surecast, what is this, League of Legends? Yeah, it's Surecast, Swiftcast, and now you have Sharpcast as a Black Mage. And this ability will cause your next spell to automatically trigger its proc. So if you Sharpcast Fire 1, you'll get a Firestarter proc. If you Sharpcast Thunder, I don't exactly know how that works. Maybe the initial hit will give you a Thundercloud proc. Things like that. So you're able to automatically trigger the procs for certain skills, which can be good for mobility. You know, you're going to have to be mobile, and having a Firecast proc would be convenient. There's a chance you'll get it, but this will guarantee that you get it. Kind of a strange ability considering the rate at which Black Mages sometimes get their procs. But the ability to guarantee that burst damage and that mobility should be a really good thing for Black Mages. And the final ability was Enochian, and this also introduced 2 other abilities. While you're under the effect of Enochian and you are at max stacks for Astral Fire or Umbral Ice, you'll be able to cast Fire 4 and Blizzard 4. Now, of course, you'll cast Fire 4 while at max Astral Fire stacks and Blizzard 4 while at max Umbral Ice stacks. And here's the way that this works. These spells have a lot of little tricks to them, and let's see if they explain them all here. So in order to use Fire 4 and Blizzard 4, you need to have Astral Fire and Umbral Ice, respectively, in addition to the buff granted by Enochian, which is 30 seconds long. So Astral Fire, Fire 4 and Blizzard 4 don't actually regenerate your stacks. So you know how every time you cast Fire 1, it regenerates the time on your Astral Fire? When you cast Fire 4 or Blizzard 4, that won't happen. So you can't just spam cast Blizzard 4 while in Enochian or spam cast Fire 4 while in Enochian. So you have to really time it with the use of your other fire spells in order to make sure that you don't drop your Astral Fire Umbral Ice stacks, which is a very interesting way of working Fire 4 into your rotation. I'm very interested to see how that ends up working. So another thing is, so Fire 4 is a lot of damage. That's its main use in Enochian. Blizzard 4's effect is actually to refresh the duration of Enochian, but it has diminishing returns. So let's say Enochian starts with 30 seconds on its buff time. when you cast Blizzard 4, it'll refresh it to 25 seconds. If you cast Blizzard 4 again, it refreshes it to 20 seconds. 15, 10, 5, and nothing. So it's going to be a new mechanic of making sure Enochian lasts long enough to get to your next Enochian cast. It's Enochian. I think it's Enochian, not Enochian. I said it right the first time. Whatever. Enochian. So that'll be the whole point. So now you'll not only be dancing between Astral Fire and Umbral Ice, but you'll also be balancing when you cast your Blizzard 4s and your Fire 4s. Because you have to make sure that you're getting the longest duration out of this buff as possible. It is definitely going to be a much more interesting way of playing the Black Mage. I'm really looking forward to how the experienced Black Mages take this information and begin theory crafting the usage of Fire 4 and Blizzard 4 in their rotation. Didn't see much about new Thunder skills. I was really hoping for Burst. Maybe they just didn't show us. We'll see. Maybe. Anyway. Moving on, the next one they showed was the Paladin. So they made fun of the fact that literally Paladin only had Rage of Halone. So they're going to introduce new combos from both Savage Blade and Riot Blade. So now Savage Blade will break off into more than one, and Riot Blade will, I guess, have a continuation, maybe more than one, but I'm not going to confirm that. So when main tanking, you'll first use Rage of Halone to gain Enmity, then use combos which include dots, so think of them like Shadow Fang or Chaos Thrust equivalents for the Paladin. Once you maintain Enmity, it's better to utilize a different combo. When playing as an off-tank, you'll just use the new combo route more similar to the way Warrior plays now. So how you fought will greatly change, hopefully. Now, what was interesting about when they showed the Paladin, it seems Paladin are getting spells now. It showed them actually standing there and going through a casting animation to cast some of their new abilities. Divine Veil, I believe, was one of them. Sets a protective barrier around the target where if the target receives cures while under the effect, other nearby members will also receive a barrier effect. So it's almost like AoE mitigation for melee, or if you cure the Paladin and now all of a sudden everyone's got this reduced damage taken. Very interesting way of dealing with it. It could also mean that a Paladin casting cure on themselves may have another interaction, because it just says receives a cure, not from other party members. So casting cure on yourself as a Paladin may be a much more beneficial way to spreading out mitigation now, a new thing for Paladins and a new use for their MP. And then this went unnamed here. I don't know if it's named in my notes. There are other skills, like you'll get new abilities to use while blocking, like you know how Shield Swipe is a block proc, you'll get new block procs. I like saying block procs. Also, it says you'll also be able to utilize Shield Swipe more effectively. So, this words it differently than the live translator did. This one says that there are going to be new skills that allow you to block attacks, which will allow you to use Shield Swipe more. That was a little bit different than the way it was translated live, so I'm glad to see this different translation here. Moving on to Warrior. So Warrior had Defiance before, right? They still have that. Now they also have Deliverance, which is a DPS increasing stance. So you know how you love how much Warriors do DPS? Xeno is gonna love this because it's literally a DPS increasing stance. So instead of generating Wrath stacks like you did in Defiance, you'll now get stacks of is it Abandon or Abaddon or Abaddon, whatever. It's Abaddon. It says Abadon. Abaddon. I thought they said abandon during the live stream. Whatever. And then you'll be able to use abilities while in this stance that increase your damage taken. So, and then it says, when switching between these two stances, the stacks you have generated will maintain. So if you have 5 stacks of Infuriate and you switch to Deliverance, those 5 stacks of Wrath, 5 stacks of Wrath will still be on you. And if you switch back to Defiance before the 30 seconds are up, you can still expend those. Same with Deliverance. So it's going to be a nice balancing act between switching between Deliverance and Defiance. And it's going to be really, really cool. There's going to be new self-healing abilities. You're going to be able to consume Abaddon, of course, in order to use, offensive abilities. It sounds like it's going to be a really, really new thing. It sounds like the Warrior is becoming even cooler to me. New ability, Raw Intuition. Now, this one's interesting. It guarantees that you're going to parry any attack if an enemy is in front of you. However, if you are attacked from the flank or the rear, it guarantees you'll take critical damage. So you wouldn't want to pop this while speed running and you have all the enemies behind you, for example. You would probably die. It's definitely going to be cool to see how this ability works and the importance of keeping enemies in front of you as a warrior, which you should have been doing anyway, but now it's even more important. Moving on to the Dark Knight. So they, of course, have their stance like Shield Oath and Sword Oath. So the Dark Side stance, or as they called it on the live stream, Dark Aura, is equivalent to the Sword Oath stance. So while you're in this stance, you're actually going to use MP in order to stay in the stance, and it will increase your offense. However, not only does it remove MP, like you start losing MP over time, other MP raising abilities will also not work on you. Like, for example, if a bard is singing Ballad while you're in the dark side stance, you will not regenerate MP from Ballad like you normally would. So, in other words, you have to use your own abilities in order to restore your MP as opposed to relying on your party to give it for you. Then there's also the Grit stance, which would be the equivalent of Shield Oath, and that increases your enmity generation. So you just got to switch back and forth between the two, because that's your standard tank stance. You have your, now, apparently every tank job has an offensive stance as well. So, a new ability, Living Dead, similar to Holmgang, this is an all-attack blocking action. So, remember when I said they were an evasion tank according to the London Fan Festival? This could very well be an ability that qualifies as evasion in terms of Japanese to English translations, because it's avoiding damage. It's an all-attack blocking action. It can block magic damage or physical damage, it seems. And on top of that, instead of having like Shield Lob or Tomahawk, they jump to the enemy. Similar to my idea for the samurai, they launch themselves in the direction of the enemy. So they will immediately jump to them and begin their enmity generating combo. It's pretty crazy to see how that's going to work, but they also said they're reworking some of the lower level abilities. For example, Shield Oath, increase, so accuracy has been increased while under Shield Oath and Defiance. So tanks won't need to stack nearly as much accuracy as they used to before. They can focus on either defensive stats, or if the pattern stays the same, even more crit and determination, which is what I'm looking forward to. I'm definitely looking forward to. All the tanks sound like a lot more fun. The Paladin having those new interactions really impresses me, but the Warrior, I'm even more excited for the Warrior now than I am the Dark Knight, to be honest. All right, let's move on to the second page. So currently there's 17 posts, so I'm sure that there will still be more that need to be updated. I think that means there's 11 jobs currently summarized here. I know Bayonne's working real hard to get these out, so don't worry. We're going to go on with the recording. So a new ability for Dragoons called Blood of the Dragon, which unleashes new abilities for you. When you're in this stance and you finish either your full thrust combo or your chaos thrust combo, a 4th tier combo ability will open up. So Dragoons has 4-stage combos now, so have fun with that. Have fun with your already really ridiculous opener now being more ridiculous. Have fun with that. There's also an ability that will consume Blood of the Dragon to do some sort of effect. On top of that, they said they're reducing the animation locks for jumps even more. I don't know. They're going to keep lowering it until they just get rid of it eventually altogether. Now, Bard was extremely interesting. So they have a new song. It's called The Wanderer's Minuet, and it's a self-buff song only. While you're singing Wanderer's Minuet, your abilities hit harder, but you now have a cast time on your abilities, which means if you move like a Black Mage, you would interrupt your cast times. Your auto attacks stop functioning, and you can't move and cast at the same time. It doesn't consume MP, and it can actually be sang alongside the other songs, at least according to the live translation. Meaning you could be singing Wanderer's Minuet for yourself and also be singing Foes for the rest of your party, which then does consume MP. It's going to be interesting. You now have to stance as a bard almost, because when you have the ability to stand still for long periods of time, this will increase your damage even more. Of course, then when you want to use abilities like Barrage, you would remove it because you want to get those auto attack procs. It's a very interesting way of making it so you're not just standing, you're not just running around in a circle going and doing all this damage. So now you have to make actual intelligent decisions about your movements as a bard. Also, the Sidewinder ability will buff the dots that are already on the target. So increase the effect, it says. I don't know if that's damage. They said it was damage on the live stream, or they also say effects. Maybe it re-extends your dots. Who knows? We'll see. It'd be nice if it could re-extend the dots. So Ninja was weird because they didn't tell us any of the new action names. All they told us is that they were adding actions that would extend the duration of Huton, meaning that you don't have to just, it's not like Huton, it's not like Huton, Suiton, Raiton, Huton, Suiton, Raiton. It's not like Huton, Suiton, Raiton, you know, Raiton, Suiton. You have more options for your ninjutsu now. Basically, you don't have to Huton every minute because you have actions that can extend its duration. They've also added positional requirements on some of the abilities. So ninjas kind of just had to stay in one place and then do trick attack once a minute. They will now have to pay a little bit more attention to certain abilities that they have. It's increasing the difficulty level of ninja, so if that's something you liked about the ninja, not having positional requirements, you will now have more positional requirements. They did say that they will not make you go in front of the enemy, which is weird because we already have an ability that does that, so it wouldn't surprise me if they did. They also have an ability that allows you to reduce either your own enmity or a party member's enmity. So if you have that one friend that never remembers to cast Quelling Strikes, yeah, now just, you can carry them with this ability. You'll be alright. So, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the ninja now fits into parties. Now, monks were, again, they didn't tell us any new abilities directly, the names at least, but they explained how they're going to work. So now the entire point of a monk is to get your Grease Lightning 3 stacks, just go through your rotations, whatever you're doing. Right before the enemy jumps up into the air, you're able to expend all your Grease Lightning stacks with a super powerful hit. Now, in order to make it a little bit more interesting, they've also added the chakra, or as they said in the live letter, the meditation attack. This stacks up to 5, similar to Wrath and Deliverance and whatever other thing stacks to 5 nowadays. And you're able to consume those stacks to either do a powerful attack or regenerate your own TP. So it's another stacking mechanic on top of the stance dancing, on top of the buff managing. So monks just got even more resource intensive. Although the ability to restore your TP is definitely going to be a good one. So what you'll do is, enemy's about to jump. Waste all your Grease Lightning stacks by expending them on a super powerful attack. Enemy goes in the air, you're whatever, you're not doing anything. Enemy comes back down, use 5 meditation stacks, or chakra stacks, in order to fully regenerate your Grease Lightning stacks, and then bam, you get right back into it. There's also the ability to change your stance now. So like if like, oh man, I really need to be in this stance. I really need to be in Oppo stance right this second. Bam. Change it into Oppo stance. I don't know if they have any more exact details on it right here. There will be an ability that allows you to change form and a weapon skill that consumes Grease Lightning. There you go. So you can now change your form. Like, I don't know. It sounds like you're going to be able to do a lot more as a monk. I'm really interested to see that. Next up, we have the Machinist. Now, they said Machinist very similar to Bard, now that Bard has those charge-up times with the Minuet, but the playstyle and awareness, according to them, will greatly differ. They have a buff, another 5-stacking buff called Ammunition. Really? Ammunition? What is this, Grand Theft Auto 5? Ammunition. And when you use this ammunition, it'll cause your weapon skills to have different effects. You can reload it, as it says right here, which will reload to 5 stacks. You also have a quick reload, which will just give you a single stack and probably have some sort of cooldown. That's if you mess up and you really need another stack in a pinch. You can lay down turrets that attack, that buff everyone in a field. You can also lay down bombs or traps for enemies. You can attach them to the enemies, according to the video. And then what's this one? Let's see. Weapon skills will work a bit differently. There are weapon skill combinations where you use shot 1, shot 2, and shot 3, but using shot 1 gives a 50% chance of boost to shot 2. So you're setting yourself up for a proc. And then another 50% chance to boost shot 3. By using ammunitions, you can make sure the boost procs. Furthermore, Machinist has many unique actions such as Wildfire, which charges the damage and attacks at once, and turrets, which will affect party members in range, so that we would like you to try it out. It sounds very, like, controlled RNG based. Like, you're just using ammunition to, like, control your RNG and improve the likeliness of you getting this big damage off. I still don't even really know what to think based on this, other than Bard seems to have sort of taken on what they said Machinist was going to do with the whole, their whole goal is to stick to one place and unload their damage. Almost seems like that's Bard's thing to do now. And they, on the other hand, I mean, they still have the charge-up attacks, but it just, they emphasized it more on Bard than they did on Machinist in this overview. So Summoner, no new Eggies. Just calm down, okay? Calm down. They decided to just fix everything else that was wrong with them, so just be happy for that. So, for example, instead of Try Disaster, they renamed it to Try Bind, and then implemented a new ability called Try Disaster that instantly applies Bio to Bio and Miasma. So you have an ability that just applies all 3 of your dots immediately. So you got that. Try Disaster is now a different ability, but the old ability, the old Try Disaster, is still the old Try Disaster. It's just called Try Bind now. So they decided that instead of working on new pets, they just wanted to fix the pets that were already there. So they are planning to add a system in the future that will allow you to change the appearance of your Eggies, like using a carbuncle instead of Garuda or something like that. But the stats remain the same. I have suggested this multiple times, where you have like Leviathan and Garuda are both your casters, like Ramu and Garuda are your casters, Leviathan and Ifrit are your attackers, and Shiva and Titan are your defensive Eggies, and they all do the same. They all have the same stats. They all do the same things, but they have different animations, and it allows for more individuality within the summoner job. And it seems like that's what they're doing. They do have a new action called the Dreadworm Trance, where you actually infuse yourself with Bahamut's power, and like the first 30 seconds of Ether Flow, you're casting dots, you expend all your Fester stacks, or at least that's what every summoner I know does. The remaining 30 seconds are where you'd probably want to use Dreadworm Trance, where you actually summon the power of Bahamut inside you. It's like he possesses you, or he infuses you with his power. And you can gain stacks of Bahamut Ether, which you can spend with an action. The action is Akmorn. Like, they showed it in the trailer. That action that you can spend your Dreadworm Trance on is Akmorn. It's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. It looked pretty cool to me at the very least. Moving on to White Mage action. So it looks like the only two missing are Scholar and Astral Ocean. I'll refresh this page after this to see if there's anything there. So White Mage was designed as a pure healer, so we introduced additional healing abilities and other abilities which are currently lacking. So they showed off a healing field, which they now hear is called Asylum, and so that creates a healing field. So you walk in there, you get your heals, and a skill that can be used to attack and heal at the same time. That was one of my major concerns about Scholar just never leaving the meta, because they could do that so efficiently. This makes it seem like, according to the way they worded it in the live translation, oh, I hit you with Arrow 3, I hit you with Arrow, I hit you with Stone 3, which are two new abilities. You'll be able to heal in an AoE. Those will cause heals to be sort of distributed in an AoE. I'm interested to see if it's like Arrow 3 adds an AoE hot, and if Stone 3 is a direct heal. That's going to make White Mage a lot more useful in the meta. They also added some more instant heals, like, you know how Benediction and Lustrate are like that? They added more abilities that allow you to instantly heal, although they're not very strong. They're just there for on-the-move heals. Let's see what else here. A new ranged, as well as new ranged dot spells. Interested to see what that is. And also, Protect is being reworked, so that every job now has the magic defense, another thing I was concerned about. So that's going to be another thing. So Scholar and Astral Ocean will both have the magic defense buff of Protect after the expansion starts. So let me refresh this page and see if Scholar and Astral Ocean have been added yet. Okay, it seems Scholar and Astral Ocean have both been added. So perfect. We don't need to use my crappy notes. So Scholar, they just literally listed a bunch of new actions. So they said these actions don't really matter too much in easy content. These are more for, like, these are really raid-oriented actions, which is pretty cool. That they just kind of designed Scholar to be even better in raids and kind of the same effectiveness, which is already amazing in dungeons. So new AoE healing action that supplements the Scholar's current AoE healing strength. So basically, you know how, like, AoE healing wasn't the greatest. It was basically Whispering Dawn and Sucker, and that's all you had. This is another new ability that should allow you to supplement that AoE healing. Deployment Tactics, which will extend the effect of a Loquium and Eye for an Eye that is on a target to other party members. So if you cast a Loquium on a target and then use Deployment Tactics, you can give that Loquium effect to everyone nearby for even more mitigation. Pretty crazy, if you ask me. Or you can give AoE Eye for an Eye, it sounds like. So that's pretty cool. Emergency Tactics. So instead of a barrier effect for a Loquium, it'll increase its healing power. So it just, like, instead of, so imagine you get a 1700 Loquium, right? And the barrier is supposed to be 3400. Instead of it being a 3400 barrier, the Loquium will heal for 3400 because it will give the additional healing power for the amount of the effect of the barrier. So it turns your Loquium from a 1700 heal and a 3400 shield into a 5400 point heal. Just an example. Just an example. Don't have much to say about that. And also, Dissipation. With this action, you dismiss your fairy in exchange for magic power. MP. You get another way of getting MP back as a Scholar. I hope that means they'll somehow have a way of using more MP, because I'm hard-pressed to think they need more MP. Or maybe magic power means it'll make them do more damage, but they said MP on the live stream. So they said magic power as well. It's strange to think that they're going to get even more of that. You know what I'm saying? So let's see. I got a live stream in like 12 minutes, so I got to wrap this up. Let's see. Stream shows off Astral Ocean. Astral Ocean was so weird. So there's Diurnal Sect and Nocturnal Sect. One of them is the healer stance, and one of them is the barrier stance. So one's like White Mage and one's like Scholar. And then, of course, you're able to switch the stance while you're in combat. It does have a cooldown, but depending on what your party needs you to do, you have these options of either being a barrier healer or a direct healer, I guess you could say. So they compare it to Y'shtola's barriers, you know, and various types of buffs, things like that. When it comes to the card drawing mechanic, however, it sounds like they're buffs that you can give to your party members. So, like, you can randomly draw. You can gain the effects such as attack, enhance, power, haste, and also damage reduction. You can use the ability Royal Road to return the card you draw to your deck and enhance the next one that you draw. There's also an action that allows you to set aside a card you drew, which means you can come back and use it later. An ability known as Shuffle to redraw the card instantly. Like, oh, I don't want this. I need a different card right now. It's a really fun job, they say. It sounds like it's a little bit RNG based, but it's like controlled RNG. And it sounds like the buffs that you get from your card aren't so mandatory that it's going to screw you over. If you're not, oh, we wiped because I pulled the wrong card. It's more like, man, we wouldn't have wiped there if I had just gotten that card, but we had messed up anyway. So Astral Ocean sounds like it's going to be a pretty fun job. It doesn't seem like I don't feel like they told us enough about Astral Ocean. They showed off a lot of the abilities. I don't know what to think about it still. Even with this information, it feels like the one we didn't get the most information out of. But yeah, it's crazy. I'm sorry this video is like 30 minutes long, but there's just so much. And then they only told us the cross-class skills for Dark Knight, but now we know the new jobs will have cross-class skills, so Dark Knight's going to have Gladiator and Marauder for additional skills. We can pretty much guess what the other ones will be. Astral Ocean will probably be Thaumaturge and Conjurer, while, and Arcanist, they'll probably, maybe they'll get 3, who knows. And, what's the other one? What's the other one I'm thinking of? Machinist. That's the one. And Machinist, they'll probably get, like, I don't know, probably get Archer and Lancer and Pugilist. Like, you know what I'm saying? We kind of already, now that we know they are going to get cross-class skills. They also didn't tell us what the new main stats would be, which is weird because they said they were going to tell us that. Maybe they just think it's, like, it's a given at this point. So, whatever. Let me see if there was anything else here. Oh, I would like to point out that his Black Mage, by the way, had at level 60, 11k MP and 9k HP. And at level 54, the tanks had 11k HP. A warrior without Defiance on had 11k HP. Just a few more things. I wrote Eloquium 2 down here. That's what it looked like. That's not what it actually was. New block action like shield swipe. Yeah, like I said, a lot of the live translations kind of came out a little bit weirder than the ones on the forums. It'd be funny finding out one was wrong and the other was right, but I'll just go with the ones on the official forums. That's the safest thing to do. See, I was ready to write down the cross-class skills, but they never told us. They only told us Dark Knight. So the official beginner's guide, not strategy guide, is coming out in Japan on June 23rd. At E3, there's going to be a 3.0 live patch note reading. Interesting. And there's also going to be the live letter 22, which will be the second half of the preview for Heavensward. And then they showed off a dungeon walkthrough, which showed off the 8 new dungeons. 2 of them seem very Allegan themed, but they did say it was going to be 8 new, you know, basic dungeons to do. So it's probably, you know, 5 leveling up and 3 at max level or something like that. But they showed them off. They all look beautiful. They all had great music. It was a great live letter. It was over 3 hours long. Again, I apologize. I do not have any video to put over me talking to you right now. If it was 2 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds, we would have been fine. But it's 3 hours and 25 minutes, so no bueno. But anyway, be sure to check out the live letter itself, the videos. They're posted all over Reddit. There's images posted all over Twitter and Reddit and everything. I'll be sure to include as many links as possible in the description of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I am looking forward to Heavensward even more. I gotta go live stream now, so I'm gonna go get this rendered and posted on YouTube ASAP. So anyway, I'll see you guys in a few minutes when I go live, and for the rest of you when you see this on YouTube in a few hours. And until then, take care.